What's going on, everybody? We're back.
Yes,
The
we
third
are.
one after the hiatus. People thought we were done. People really thought we were done, but guess what? We got a lot more shit to talk, a lot more things to share, and hopefully bring some entertainment value into a 30-minute segment. And hopefully you continue to listen to us in the garage. What are we drinking today?
Today we're drinking Guava Dia,
Guava Dia.
Golden Road Brewing.
Golden
Doesn't
Brew.
taste like beer.
No.
It tastes like guava.
Keep making fruity beers. I enjoy them. I remember going to
Yeah, it's
that,
not bad.
remember going to there like years ago when they just started, and there was like this tiny little place. We went, dude.
Where is it?
This is over there by North LA County, by like the Griffith. Is that even LA County anymore?
Should.
Okay.
But I don't remember going. Maybe it was someone else. Was it me?
It had to have been. Anyways, but yeah, definitely. So today we have some pretty cool things to talk about. Something I've been wanting to talk about for a very long time, being that we do have a little bit of experience in it, and we've had some positive, we've had some negative experience. So, and definitely a lot of knowledge has been accumulated in a short time because we became very interested in it, and I think
And we're still interested.
Very interested in it, and we're still doing it, by the way. So hopefully we can share some light on a couple things, and I know that hopefully it should help in the long run and in your 30-year
Especially
life.
to the younger people who are barely starting out.
Yes. Going to try to shatter some... Your old dad's... Whatever your old dad is telling you is probably not what's really happening nowadays. So, actually, as a matter of fact, speaking about what's happening in the old-time days, how were the stock markets today, man? Talk to me.
Well, today they were good. The last week and a half were not so good.
Not so good.
The whole trade war talk with Trump, it all started with his tweets. The stock market started crumbling, and then China,
They want to flex their
retaliated.
muscle?
Right. So yeah, needless to say, last week into this week, there's been a lot of volatility. Who knows where those talks are going to lead to? But in the meantime, because of the uncertainty, the markets just always react, usually in a negative way, depending what the news are. But in this case, they dropped significantly.
I gotta ask you a question.
Who knows?
Based that this is what you do on a regular day, this is basically your job, and honestly, you're probably the only person that I know that's on top of this, as it being your primary income. Where is the economy as strong as they're making it seem it is? I mean, I ask you this all the time, but I think from someone who's actually doing it, someone who's in the grime of it and it's paying bills off of it, what do you say? Is it as strong as project or it's made out to be?
Well, as you know, things go in cycles, right? Not the economy, real estate, which we are also going to talk about, and a lot of other things. They're very cyclical. The economy, the U.S. economy in particular, has been doing very well for the past few years, and that's why probably Trump will be reelected again if it continues. But anyway, yes, it's been doing very well compared to the rest of the world, compared to emerging markets, Europe, Asia. But it seems, according to the numbers, from some of the sources that I read, they're already kind of topping, and the rate is starting to slow down. The rate of growth is starting to slow down. So, which means that we're topping, right? After that, depending on a whole bunch of variables, it can go down as bad as to a recession, but we're not there at all yet. We're not anywhere close.
We're not even. Yeah. And who knows?
But yeah, I mean, that's usually how it ends, right? You top, the end of the growth rate starts to drop, and eventually it starts to crumble in over a year, 2 years, 3 years, however long it takes. I mean, that's the thing about cycles. No one really knows how to time it because it comes down to a bunch of variables, right?
You know what? Speaking about this, I think when I was in high school, the first big housing crash that drove the economy to the ground, I was too young to really understand what was really going on. You're a little older than I am, so you kind of saw things. And in retrospect, you said that you would read a lot of things, and things were kind of looking as they were pointing to something like that, right? But during that
Well,
time,
in retrospect,
in
but
retrospect,
in
right? Like not,
retrospect,
I
it's
mean,
always
if
clear.
yeah, it's always clear in retrospect. But what I'm saying is, now that I'm a little older, I'm a little not wiser, but I'm a little older, and I've
A
had a little
little
bit,
wiser.
just a little bit, and I have a little bit of experience in actually being out of school, and went to college, and I've had the last 5 years or so, I've actually been in the workforce myself. I've experienced this kind of, I feel like every day I am in it. I'm in the workforce, and I'm not just going to work to work. I'm actually paying attention in the travels. When there's more money in people's pocket, they tend to travel a little bit more. They tend to spend it. So um, I am, I don't want to speak on what I do or anything like that, but there is something going on right now, and I think we've talked about that off air and how the way I see it. Now, you know, I don't know how you want to touch this point, but when there's a quote by the great Warren Buffett, right? We tend to appreciate him. We take his advice. He's obviously done it for a very long time. He says, "You buy when there's blood on the streets." So just because there's a downturn does not mean there can't be any sort of opportunity within that downturn. And you can make a lot of money when things are good, and you can make a lot more money when things are down if you are in a position and you're in your position in the correct way, and you are in the power to do so.
Right.
So
Yeah. So like in this situation, yeah, the fact that things are dropping, obviously, no one really knows how the trade wars are going to end. But once something is settled, there definitely will be opportunity, right? I mean, maybe it'll go further down.
which I would love to talk about that, as far as like in what kind of opportunity that even means in the real estate realm, which
Well,
I
this is
do
the
have
thing.
some
Most of
experience.
us, well, I don't have 401k, but I do have an IRA, and you probably have 401k, right, through your job. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I have both.
Well, the majority of people have 401ks, so there's definitely an opportunity to add a little more. And if it starts dropping, don't worry about it, because the thing is that everyone starts selling when things starts crashing, and that's why there's an opportunity that's created afterwards, because everyone starts to sell and panic. Then once the bottom is there and it starts coming back up, most people, the average person, doesn't their confidence is completely gone by then, that they don't add money at that point until it starts climbing up again and climbing up, and then finally it's already up here where it was, or even higher, and then that's when they finally start to gain that confidence and start to go back in, which is obviously that going back to the Warren Buffett quote, it's that's the purpose, that's the reason why when there's blood in the streets, when everything's crashing, when everyone's panicking, is when opportunities come, right?
And honestly, if we look back in time, every time there's been some sort of great recession, or the, um, the depression, right? There's always been winners and losers. Right when there's been a lot of losers, there's been a few winners, and when those few winners win, they win big, man. They win real big,
They
and
do.
and that's because they're in a position to act on it. And some people say that's opportunist, but you would do the same thing as they would if you were in that position. You're only mad because you're on the losing end of it, and that's facts. Like, I've been on losing end on a lot
See,
of things, and I'm
and
like, oh, he got me.
and that now let's talk about real estate, because it's exactly the same thing you're talking about. It doesn't only apply to stocks and those type of investments, but it also applies to real estate, because again, we want to talk about the American dream of owning a house.
The 2.5 kids, white picket fence, great career,
Right.
company car, great package, retirement fee, like the whole retirement thing, and
And that's, when you talk to friends, when I talk to friends, when I talk to family, for the most part, that is the goal, right?
let me tell you something that doesn't exist anymore. 100% it doesn't. I guarantee you it doesn't. I've been in companies that have had some sort of pension. Well, guess what? They paid those out. And they've gone to a traditional, or now what we see more of a traditional 401k system. None of this profit sharing stuff going on. That doesn't exist anymore. Trust me. Open your eyes. It's not going to happen. Unless
Although-
you work for like maybe like a school district or the government, where even they are not doing what they used to do anymore, because guess what? The state is broke. And
Exactly.
so they run just like businesses too. And although they do have better paying jobs and they do have better, benefits and stuff like that, but come on, they're also ran as a business. Everything is ran as a business. And
What I
that's
do
what tell people.
recommend, again, not we're not financial advisors. We
We're not.
just know a few things about this stuff. But what I do recommend for those who do have a 401k is to, especially if they match whatever you put in, take advantage of that, because that's free money. If they match anything, any percentage, that's free money that you should definitely take. That's free money for you as a 401k owner. So you should definitely take advantage of that. At least to the point that they match whatever it is that they match. And if you don't understand what we're talking about, just ask your boss, your
employer.
They should be able to explain it a little better.
Absolutely. So how does this even tie into like 401ks and real estate and everything? Well, everything is very much interconnected. I think switching a little bit up and talking a little bit more on actual like what's going on with housing nowadays. So for a lot of you guys that don't know, I still hold a real estate license. I did it for a little bit. I didn't like it overall. A lot of reasons, but I'm not going to touch those reasons. But all I'm going to say is I did learn a lot of valuable things. And I realized how, yes, you can definitely, trust me, you can definitely gain a lot, and you can create a lot of wealth, and you can make a lot of money in real estate. That is factual information. I will never debunk that. And there's a lot of honest people out there making a living doing so. So I'm not going to say it's total horseshit. But yes.
When it comes to the consumer, when it comes to everyone should own a home, or you hear that from politicians, you hear that from...
Sorry.
What the hell, man?
My bad.
You hear that from politicians.
I wanted to open that because I'm starting to, get excited about this, get giddy. I get giddy just based on like... Go ahead.
Well, yeah, we like talking about this.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you hear that about politicians. Oh, everyone should own a home. You hear, but the thing is that it's all propaganda. When you hear it like that it's American dream, that you should own a home, that all that, right? Because the thing is that, the government benefits because the economy continues growing when people are buying houses, when people are spending, right? It helps the GDP, it helps, consumerism overall, which obviously we live in a consumer economy. So it helps the economy, which means that government officials benefit because they get reelected and all that, right? Lobbies, the real estate lobbies, they're pushing it because obviously they profit from it. So who are the ones that end up losing? The average person who doesn't understand how real estate works.
The average person who gets caught up in the emotion of it. Now,
Right.
Obviously in economics, anyone who's taken an economics class, understands two schools of thought, right? Like the school of like the whole, how the government should do things for us, right? Okay, which they do. And how does the government influence the real estate market, or how does the government influence certain things? Very basic stuff, right? Through monetary and fiscal policy. The one that deals with interest rates, obviously they try to keep, like you were just mentioning, they try to keep the interest rates as low as possible to create a lower barrier of entry point for a lot of people, based on lower interest. So they try to sell you on the lower interest. You're gonna be paying less long term. But is that really true? Okay, if you're gonna keep that and it's a fix, something's fixed, maybe through the longevity of the loan, maybe you will.
That's a little bit too technical. Let's not get too technical.
Never mind.
Because,
Did I get too charged there?
Yeah,
Never mind. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it low.
Yeah, I mean, but let's just talk about the misconception that people have about owning a home.
Excited.
You got a little too.
See, I enjoy this. I fucking love it. And
all right. So
go ahead.
So people, when they want to buy a house, what is it? Why do people what is their incentive to buy a house?
There isn't any incentive.
No,
to buy a
what
house.
do they think?
But so this is the thing. I'm gonna tell you like this. It's the whole thing, and playing into your emotion as security, as having something of your own.
Well, as
an investment overall, right? I was going to get to that. But is it really an investment?
No.
So on average, I forgot the percentage of people that actually refinance, like through like through their lifetime or the cycle of the loan. So they're keeping pulling out money. So at the end of the whole term, they don't even end up paying their house, or there isn't very much equity
Well,
left, right?
if you refinance your house, you're pretty much getting renewing your
Yeah.
loan. And that's the misconception. I've heard of even people who own houses. They're like, "Oh, I'm gonna refinance my house so I can pull some money out of my house." Your house is not making money, dude. It's
Nah,
a structure.
listen, it's not,
You're renewing your loan, which means that now whether you go through another bank, now you're getting another loan. If you're pulling money out, you're pulling money out in terms of like you're getting a loan from the bank. So now you're pretty much resetting your loan. You're not taking equity out of your house because
nah.
your house is a structure. It doesn't create money unless if you're gonna invest in a house.
Oh man.
What's an investment, like a true investment in real estate?
So so check this out. Something a true investment is something that you're actually making something off of it, right? Or something that you're gonna at the end of it you're gonna have something, right? Or have more of it.
So renting, right? Like if you buy a house and rent it out to someone and they're paying
Yeah.
off your bill, your
In the
mortgage.
in the long term, yeah.
Right. Or
In the short term,
as
flipping
we've
homes.
experienced,
Yeah.
we've actually dipped our toes in it a little bit. So we've actually done it, and we had a good experience. So I mean, it was challenging to some extent, but we had a good experience. We learned a lot, right?
I mean,
And-
we didn't lose money.
Right. So, but that's the thing, though. We did it to flip, not to buy it for ourselves. Because again, let's just go to the misconceptions of that. How is it not an investment?
So yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's not because if you look at the statistics, people move from 5 to 7 years. They they that's the cycle between them moving, right? So another one of the thing is they don't even take into consideration their entry point as far as in the whole cyclical part of it, right? So sometimes, like as we're looking at now, some people buy where the
Like
the
the people who bought in 2007.
there's still people suffering from that.
Yeah, exactly.
So dude, I remember like one of a friend, right? She bought a house for like $500,000, right? Just to give you an example on this, and she was telling people that, or her real estate advice was, "Oh, houses they'll never go down, not the new ones." And so very ignorantly, she was guiding her friends, she was guiding her family, and guess what she did? She sold that house like a year and a half later, 2 years later, when it was just booming, and yeah, she probably made like 100 grand, and then she went off and bought a $700,000 home. So I was like,
For anyone who's interested in learning about this part, go watch what's the movie with
The Big Short?
The Big Short. It's an awesome movie.
Dude, that is an awesome movie. But yeah, I think, listen, this is a very complex, and I think we went off complete topic. But
Well,
but
the
it's-
point is that a lot of people, or see a mortgage payment with a rent payment as apples to apples.
nah.
The reality is that that's as far away from the truth as you can get.
Well, I don't think people there's they don't understand the hidden cost and what it costs to fix something. I mean, for my example, I had a friend who purchased a home, and man, it seemed like almost every month something was going wrong with the house. And when you're renting, excuse me, yeah, the landlord takes care of it. Sure, it's not yours, and you're paying somebody, you're making somebody else's rich. How they're gonna give it to you and tell you so you can go off and buy a house. But he didn't. I mean, even now, I don't think he had a very pleasurable experience with owning a house. And I think a year ago, it was over 50% of millennials that bought homes were experiencing buyer's remorse.
Right.
So obviously something's there, and then they get caught up in the whole, oh, it's a tax credit. But if you really look at it, is it really?
Well, you're getting tax credit on interest.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't tax credit. Let's say you're paying. Well, this is a thing also that I've also heard about are people that when I ask them if they know what the truth in lending is, like people who own houses, they don't even know what the hell that is.
Oh yeah, the truth in lending.
The truth in lending basically is just in your mortgage papers when you buy a house. It's a document that explains, it breaks down how much interest you're paying and how much it's going into the principal on a monthly basis. And when you look at it, like 90+% of it is going to interest the first several years, and then it's only like it slowly starts to inverse. But most of it is like let's say you have a $2,000 home mortgage payment. The first year, like 95, 90 whatever percent is going to interest. So you're paying like what 1,800 plus 1,900 of it into interest, and then you're only putting like $100, a couple $100 of that into the principal.
Yeah, because these loans, they want to be paid back first and be paid back for letting you borrow that money. That's just the way any loan works. It's always heavy in the front. Also, like if you don't have a substantial down payment, which is at least of I think a 20%, if I'm correct, don't quote me on that. PMI, that's an extra.
Yeah, I think it's 20%.
20%, right? It's an extra what $300-400 added to your already high mortgage rate. So there's a lot of that in there, and we can go on forever and ever and
And
ever.
there's property insurance. There's not property taxes and insurance.
Now, if you
live in California, from what I remember, if I remember correctly, about 10% of Californians who own a house or who are buying a house have earthquake insurance. The 90+% or whatever don't. So we're all expecting the big one, right? If the big one comes and they don't have earthquake insurance,
we're fucked.
Well, those 90% of people who own a mortgage, right?
So I'd rather just be renting it when that big one comes. It's like, it's your house.
Well, unless you can afford, like again, if you can afford it, it's not a bad thing to own, a house. But what I've heard that I definitely agree with is that buy a house if you can pay 20% off down payment, if you're gonna live there for the rest of your life, and if you're not gonna see it as an investment, because it's not really an investment,
Well, and also too though, like if we start taking into consideration the way, like where the terms are going with, as far as the trend, as far as like mobility, and where even the job market, if you start looking at it, things do change and things are gonna keep changing and things are gonna continue to change, and if you really feel like you're going to be at a job for 30 years or 20 years or whatever, and you're only tied down to a certain geographical area, and like you were just mentioning, you don't plan on leaving and you can do all that stuff, yeah, maybe it's not such a bad thing. But the variables are that they keep changing, so it might not be there. So definitely do your research, do your homework. Renting is not so bad after all. Don't let.
Well, the thing is that if you compare the numbers, again, a lot of people compare mortgage payment and rent payment as if they were the same, but they're not
apples
the same.
And orange. It's actually like apples and like cucumbers.
Guavas?
Yeah, no, that's more like on a group side of or fruit.
Cucumbers?
Well, no, even
eggplant.
It's more like comparing apples to
octopuses. Like peaches and eggplant.
The only thing you can compare between rent and mortgages is that you're going to be living somewhere. That's about
right.
So, man, we fucked this one up, but it's all good. But listen.
But anyway, yeah. Again, look, for those who think that renting is the worst thing you can do, it's really not the worst thing you can do. And again, maybe some other time we'll make a podcast on breaking down the differences or like comparing the two. But it's really not as bad as people make it seem, especially in how the economy's going, how everything's going. Like, unless you have a really great job that you can easily afford it, reconsider. Don't think that that's the thing that you need to do. That's your goal in life. That to own a house.
I think the message that we're I don't even think we conveyed a message. I think we just said a few things, but we'll continue to talk about this, and as it go and as things come up and stuff. I think ultimately it's just really just like you were saying, just kind of do your research, man. The whole like that's your pappy's way of thinking, like.
And it worked back then because things were
in the
different
50s,
back
yeah,
then.
of course, in the 50s where there were these great manufacturing jobs that were booming, and then after World War II and stuff like that, where we saw some of the most manufacturing being done in the history of that, and everything was booming. Things were relatively looking great, and yes, at that point, that was kind of the mindset. I think now, being that everything is becoming global and stuff, it's just harder to have those jobs. It's harder to. We're just not in that place anymore that we once were, and I think if anything, just really think about what you want. Obviously, that's kind of the hardest part. A lot of us don't, and I think we just fall into the trap of being told what we want. And once we're told what we want, then we kind of feel like that is a standard and that's something we should try and achieve and strive for, which sometimes it does work out great when you have that kind of backing from people. But for the most people, we don't come from rich families. We don't come from people in financial backing like that. So, my dad's not putting 20% down on my house, and so I have to look at it things a little bit different, right? And what's going to benefit for me is it just trying to build capital and investing elsewhere in different avenues and vehicles that are going to give me the same return without having the overhead costs or having the a lot of these X, Y, and Z reasons, hidden expenses that come with houses, right? So, there is other places where you can become wealthy and have money. It doesn't have to be in a structure, and it doesn't have to be something that's physically there, as more people think it is.
And just to kind of wrap it up, if anyone is interested in just learning a little bit more about personal finance, there's this book by Ramit Sethi. He's an Indian American guy who I follow, and he has a lot of practical advice. He has a book called "I Will Teach You to Be Rich." The title is a little bit gimmicky, I get that, but the information in that book is actually very practical. It's very useful for like the average person.
Just
it
like
teaches you, huh?
Just like Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's kind of gimmicky.
Well, that one it's more like conceptual, conceptual. This one actually explains like what type of checking account you should get, what type of insurance you should get, like just stuff that we all kind of use on a regular basis, but how to get the best out of it, how to invest your money in an IRA, Roth IRA, put your money in there. He breaks it down in a very simple, practical way. So anyone interested, check out his book. And I definitely think you will benefit from it because, it is very practical. And also, and I think he does talk about real estate as well. But he talks about, primarily just, general financial, personal finance. Again, from saving, like how much you should save. We should all, like something that you and I feel strongly about, like just putting some money aside every paycheck we get, because there are tough times that come, unexpectedly. So
sometimes they last longer than others, and sometimes we're not prepared for them. So I think, you can still have a good time out there. Spend some money, but also pay yourself first. I think that's
right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Pay yourself first. I think that's, you go out and you work for somebody and you're making somebody else rich. It's going to be bitter. Making somebody else be rich. And a lot of the times we forget to come home and we see that paycheck and we want to go spend it, right? Because we feel like we work hard for it. But pay yourself first. Save $5. Just don't ever touch it again and put it somewhere. And at the end of the year, maybe you'll be $15 richer. So on that note, go ahead. You got anything else to say? Wrap it up.
Just again, we have a podcast on audio on Apple iTunes and Spotify and all the rest of the other platforms. So if you guys want to check us out there, go for it.
With that being said, happy hump day.
All right, someday.
All right. Later.